Hello, and welcome to another one of these fantastic live streams at Nobody Studios, where we get to spend time with some of our early investors in the studio, people who saw what we were doing, got excited, and got involved in the very earliest stages of Nobody. And over the course of this show, we've got to spend time with some amazing entrepreneurs, people who have their own stories about twists and turns in their career, how they've built companies, lessons they've learned, and how we're folding all of that experience and excellence into the studio to help us build amazing companies. And this show, we've got an extra special guest, absolutely one of our very first investors, but also someone who leads and is the chairman of one of our first ever advisory boards, Bobby Soper. So, Bobby, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Barry. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, look, always great to spend time with you. And, for people who probably aren't familiar with you, you're the former CEO and president of Mohegan Sun, one of the largest sort of gaming and resorts on the east coast of the US. You've had a fantastic career. It seems to be all the time. Everyone starts as a lawyer and turns into an entrepreneur. It seems like these days. We've got Mike Mamola on WebDelic. We've got Sachel, who's our chief culture officer. I seem to meet a lawyer who turns into an entrepreneur like every single time. But for folks who probably want to hear a little bit about your own entrepreneurial story, do you want to share a little bit about not only the amazing work you've done at Mohegan Sun, but just
Yeah, I lost you there, Barry. I think you're frozen. Oh, you're on mute, Barry. You're on mute.
There we go.
Yes.
The joy of live television, Bobby. Yeah. So for folks who mightn't be familiar with your own journey around Mohegan Sun, and can you share a little bit about your own journey and what sort of got you started on your entrepreneurial endeavors?
No, absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I've been very fortunate, very blessed. I spent almost 2 decades in, we'll call it the corporate world at Mohegan Sun, incredible organization. As you mentioned, I typically don't publish the fact that I'm a lawyer. No dig to any lawyers out there. But I was general counsel. And even that experience was incredible because I got to lead a team to raise money for the tribe, Mohegan Tribe of Indians of Connecticut, first Native American tribe in the United States to raise money on Wall Street. In fact, over $1 billion to expand an already successful resort. And that was, during the early days of my experience in Mohegan. And then just over 2 decades, just super fortunate to be able to serve in various leadership capacities, primarily as a CEO, both at the property level. So I really had an appreciation for the operations of an integrated resort, which included in most instances casino gaming, and then CEO of the company, and which was more of a strategic and development role. And in that capacity, again, very fortunate to be able to work for an organization that allowed me to lead efforts to expand both domestically and globally in various states in the United States, in Canada, in Seoul, Korea, where a large multi-billion-dollar project is being developed now. And, I spent 20 years in that corporate environment, and 5 years ago decided, to take what I've learned and network and so forth and be an entrepreneur and a partner investor in initiatives that I felt were transformational. The gaming resort industry, the integrated resorts, I learned a lot. It was a fast evolving industry because gaming is fairly young in the United States, at least as a legal, product, right? But what we found is that fast growth, there's a lot of gaps in innovation, a lot of gaps in, solutions and processes that exposed, I think, guest service issues and other issues, right? And so for me, it was an opportunity, in some of my entrepreneur endeavors to help create solutions for those gaps.
Yeah, no, it's been fascinating. So as you say, you've this amazing history in the corporate world. You're bringing all that experience to the entrepreneurial world now as well. There's lots of spaces that you're playing in. I know you're big into renewable energies and these types of spaces too as well. So for nobody, tell us how did you discover nobody? Because that's what's always a fun for people out there to understand, like especially in the earliest days, right? You're one of our earliest investors and champions, if you will. What helped you discover nobody, and what sort of stood out to you as you sort of looked at it?
Yeah, no. So I will point this out because I think you bring up a good point. Though my experiences in hospitality, I wanted to focus on sectors or opportunities that were, to me, transformational, high exponential growth, and had a future, right? And so often that was in whether it's green energy, renewables, plant-based food. There's just a number of areas that I've invested in, partnered in. And which leads me in part to why I was interested in Nobody, right, and how I got involved. A colleague of mine told me about Nobody's Studios. I was somewhat familiar with the incubator scene, even the venture studio scene, but to me this was really unique, right? Because once I was introduced to Mark and then you, Barry, of course, Mark McNally, I was intrigued by the business model. I was intrigued by the goals, the vision. I'll never forget from the very beginning. It was always that big, hairy, audacious goal, in the words of Jim Collins, to build 100 companies in 5 years, right? And it sounds good, but as I learned more, as I learned from that introductory call to many months and meetings afterwards, I truly believed it, sincerely believed it, and it's a function of the type of talent that's being brought in, right? The focus, just in our own hospitality board, the amount of talent we have across different sectors, whether it's in travel, whether it's in boutique or large chain hotels, whether it's integrated resort experience, nightlife and food and beverage, right? That talent is to be concentrated in one area. It really, to me, was a reflection of that commitment to create the 100 companies in 5 years. And I'm just the progress we've made, just the hospitality board. I'm super excited about that, and glad I was introduced to Mark over a year ago.
Yeah, and like this is one of the most important things, right? We get a lot of questions, and you sort of alluded to it before. Diversity in terms of an investment portfolio is always interesting to people. And as you say, you're diversifying yourself both in your interest areas and sort of investment pursuits. And then having a place like Nobody that you're almost diversified by design. But we have these natural concentration areas, and hospitality is one that we just had this sort of nexus of amazing talent, entrepreneurs, investors like yourself, where we can bring people together to build these companies and sort of ultimately have unfair advantages. It's that simple, both in terms of understanding of the domain, networks, relationships, and the ability to sort of bring that thinking together to create more. And you were that lucky first inaugural chairman of one of these advisory boards, Bobby, which, again, that shows again your appetite to dig deeper and get involved and roll up your sleeves, which is such a huge part of what we value in the studio, right? Investors are not just send us a check and cheer us on. They're like rolling up their sleeves, and I think you just exemplify that really well. So can you share a little bit, just even your experience of digging into this sort of early stages of the advisory boards, the network, the people you've mentioned that you've already started to meet? What have been some of the fun experiences from doing that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, to be fully transparent, I was intrigued by the investment, right? A while back, and really didn't think about being directly involved. But as time went on and I learned more, and again, saw the talent, right? And then was honored and humbled for Mark to ask me to be the inaugural chair of the board. It was hard to say no. I mean, and I'm glad I didn't. And I think partly it's a function of the fact that that the talent that we have in our board also requires talent in these other verticals, right? Like, I know the future of hospitality is going to be involved in some way and weaved and integrated into the fintech world, right? I'm not a fintech expert. And most frankly, on our hospitality board are not fintech experts. But there's a lot in Nobody Studio umbrella, the Nobody Studios family that are, right? And to be able to leverage that, right, is you just wouldn't be able to do it in the real world. Or maybe it's wellness, for example, or cybersecurity, right? Those are all going to be important, in the hospitality vertical, right? And to have this one location where you have, I mean, not just talent, top talent from Fortune 500 companies, from, truly innovators, right? For me, that was probably the biggest incentive, right? Or carrot to truly roll up the sleeves. And our bandwidth is limited, right? And so I've always been very careful how I'm going to consume my bandwidth. And this was just too compelling to me. And I'm a believer now as an investor, and I'm a believer, as a true nobody who hopefully will make an impact, especially in that hospitality vertical.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt you're making an impact already, Bobby. And like you say, part of the power is the network, the new people that you meet, the great collaborators, high quality individuals who can challenge your thinking, who can educate you in different domains, and really help you sort of, move forward with ambitions you never had. So we've already got one question coming in, is always great. How do you see the world of hospitality changing with disruptive technologies such as AI? I know this is sort of a passion and frustration area for you at the same time. Do you want to share a little bit about what really has inspired you about using technology to innovate, especially in the hospitality space?
Yeah. I mean, we could spend hours talking about this, right?
Yeah.
I would say at a very high level, there's a couple things. One is we have to adapt to the new taste and generation, right? It's individualized experience, individualized content. People want their own content, right? And I think also, at the end of the day, and this is where AI, is very important, is customization of those individual tastes, right? We've evolved, we've gotten better. CRM and big data warehouses took us to one level, and I think AI takes us to another level. And the problem that I've experienced, and this is not a dig, this is just sort of how the hospitality industry's evolved, is there's still a lot of old school thinking, and leadership, is often, often emanates from 30 years, 40 years of experience, right? And so it's tough to teach a new tricks to an old dog, right? Right? And I fit in that category, right?
Me too, don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's it really is. AI is going to have a lot of roles, whether it's actual product, through augmented reality and through virtual, all that. But it's also, I think it's about customization for personal experiences. I think that, to me, is going to be the greatest impact in the hospitality industry.
Yeah, no, it's one of those areas, I think, even when we've been doing some of the ideation sessions early on in the hospitality board, that I've heard you talked about a lot, right? This challenge about when somebody's on a resort, how can you really get that insight about where they at last night? What do they enjoy? When they come back next time, can you have the reservation readily booked for them to say, welcome, Barry, we've got your favorite table in your favorite restaurant ready for you on Tuesday night. These experiences I've heard you want to create, and yet feel the frustration of being unable to monitor that, to create these customized experiences that really wow customers. And in many ways, it feels like a lot of that thinking is sort of bubbling into some of the ideas that are really, you've been sort of immersing yourself and the board in around what you might try to bring. So for you, like, is there one area in particular of hospitality that you're most excited about trying to innovate and bring something to market in through Nobody Studios?
Yeah, I mean, I think It's hard to say one area, right? Because the opportunity is so large. The chance to monetize those personalized experiences, right? Again, that's not a specific area, but it's across the board. To me, that's the largest opportunity. I think probably in the resort world, lodging is, because it's so significant in both size, in both monetary volume and just pure, visitation and consumption. Probably, but travel's really big, right? I think, it's just so tough to pick one, but I think monetizing those personalized experiences, there's so much opportunity, so much low hanging fruit if that technology is present.
Great. So in closing then, really for yourself, it's like, if anyone out there has been following our story, tuned into these amazing live streams that we get to do, looking at following nobodystudios.com, what advice would you have for investors, crowdfunders, about why they might want to get involved in Nobody Studios?
Yeah, look, I think, again, I've had, the experience of looking at so many opportunities. Again, whether it's a venture studio, whether it's, a Fortune 500 opportunity or a pure VC opportunity. And to me, and I believe this even more now, being involved in this past year as the hospitality chair, it's the basically collective benefit of all those opportunities into one, right? And the monetary benefits, the fact that we create these companies with the best talent and then sell those companies, and those profits are distributed to all the nobodies, right? Every single time we do it, is ingenious, right? And and from my standpoint, you're getting the best of all worlds. Not every company we create is going to be successful. We know better, right? Even though we're going to have all the best talent across many verticals creating that company, right? But the opportunity, the likelihood that we're going to have relatively more successes, right? Because of that talent and right because of that business model, and that we're going to benefit financially and in other ways as well, right? Creating things that you can say you were a part of is always a great feeling. So there's a lot of other reasons too, besides economic benefits. But to me, it's just having all the best of all these opportunities of investing into one, one vehicle.
Oh, right on. Well, listen, Bobby, it's been amazing to have you with us on this journey. You're a great example of someone who found us, got curious, got involved, has continued to roll up their sleeves and help us build these great companies. I think there's many more ahead of us. I'm looking forward to building with you. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us today, and look forward to having you back again in the future to share more about the hospitality board and the businesses there.
Thanks, Barry. Again, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, and look forward to additional conversations in the future.